Hello everyone, it's Sugar, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a simple articulated unicorn. To make the body, take some aluminium foil and roll it into a ball. Don't make it too tight as you'll want to poke holes through it later. Then cover it with polymer clay. I use Super Sculpey, but any brand will do. Just use the one you're the most comfortable with. I'm starting to sculpt the head. I start off with 2 balls of clay and slowly smooth them into a pony head shape. Don't worry too much about the details at this stage, that will come later. Just try to get a general shape that you like. Oh, and don't forget to compare the head with the body from time to time to make sure you're happy with the proportions. Yep, that looks about right. Using my sculpting tool, I poke holes where the eyes will be. I then roll small balls of clay and put them there. Time to add nostrils and the ears. I prefer to keep my unicorns pretty simple and without too many details, but that's just the way I do it. If you want to be more realistic, just do it. There's no wrong way. Not bad. Now it's time to assemble the head and the body. I start off by adding clay to the base of the head, creating a neck. And now I just have to attach the neck to the body. Alright, this is finally starting to look like a horse. But it's not quite right yet. So I just add some clay here and there until I get the shape I want. Looking good. Now I'm going to poke holes through the body. This is where the legs will be. So the tricky part here is to make the holes neither too small nor too big, so you have a little wiggle room to slip the elastic through and without the legs being wobbly. I usually use my tool, but as you can see, you can just use a toothpick. Alright, if you're like me and you have very warm hands, you can put your unicorns in the fridge from time to time for a few minutes. This way the clay will harden and you won't have to worry as much about squishing your previous work and ruining all the details. My previous unicorn had a very long tail as she was inspired by medieval art, but I decided this one would be more like a pop culture unicorn. Medieval unicorns are kinda goat-like. I want her to be more like a draft horse. Okay, time to get started with the legs. Again, I start off from a very rough general shape and work my way from there. Once I'm happy with it, I sculpt the details like the hooves and the hairs. Just be careful that it doesn't hinder the mobility. Now that the leg is done, I use the toothpick to poke a hole through it. Again, it must not be too small or too big. For the hind leg, it's pretty much the same thing. The only real difference is that I have to make sure the 2 legs look like they belong together on the same unicorn. As I make the other two legs, I try to keep them as symmetrical as I can. Don't overdo it though. You'll drive yourself mad if you start obsessing over it. And anyway, in my opinion, small flaws give it all character. I bake everything following the instruction written on the clay packaging. Then I correct the symmetry one last time with the help of my trusty X-Acto knife. You can also use sanding paper. Finally, I can start painting! I decided to make a galaxy unicorn. I paint her black using acrylic paint. Dilute the paint with water to avoid paintbrush lines and let it fully dry before painting another layer. With black, a few coats are enough. A lighter color like white take a lot more. Now that my black paint is nice and dry, I use a light blue to paint random swirls and stains around the body. I tried not to overthink it and just paint wherever I want. Following those markings, I use a more intense blue. Try to blur your colors together so there's no neat lines. The messier, the better. Time for magenta. Depending if the base color is black or the lighter blue, it looks either purple or pink. I just go back and forth between my three colors, using black to correct my mistakes until it looks good. I use a tiny little bit of neon pink paint to make the magenta really pop. I paint the legs the same way, and I make sure that they match with the body. I paint the hooves, eyes and horn with gold paint. Let's give this galaxy some stars. So this is very easy. You just need to take your paintbrush, dip it in some white paint diluted with water, and then just flick the paintbrush at the doll. And that's it. If you mess up, you can just erase what you just did using a napkin. Now, using either a nail art tool like I do or a toothpick, add some bigger weight dots. I probably should have done this step before the gold, but I was very excited to try out my new gold pigment and I didn't exactly think it through at the time. Right now, I'm preparing yarn weft for the mane and tail. I learned how to do this by following Mozi Kaito's tutorial. I will include the link in the description and I highly recommend her videos, as I learned almost everything I know about wig making from watching them. I'm not gonna straighten the yarn though, because the cloudy fluffiness will suit the team better. I forgot to film it, but I repainted my unicorn's eyes purple because I wasn't happy with how it looked in gold, and then I styled everything using matte varnish. Once everything is dry, it's time to assemble the unicorn. I stick a piece of elastic through one leg and seal it in using strong, fast-drying glue. I then hide the hole by gluing a decorative element on top. For this project, I'm using pearl stickers, but you can also use buttons, pom-poms, or even paper flowers. Once the glue is set, I push the elastic through the body and then the other leg. The trick here is that you have to keep the elastic tight so that the leg doesn't touch the body. Otherwise, you might end up with two permanently glued to each other. I trim off the excess and glue another pearl sticker on top. At check for mobility issues before getting started on the hind legs. It's exactly the same thing. Okay, so I had some technical issues here as I ran out of glue and had to use another brand than my usual one instead. It took so much longer to dry. I'm not buying it again. It did dry eventually. There you go. The hardest part is done. You are now the proud parent of a tiny Poseable unicorn. She is looking a little bald though. Time to give her a beautiful mane and tail. Using this time my usual glue, I start putting the first yarn weft in place. And the next one. To make the tail, I simply wrap my weft around the clay base I sculpted. I let it set for a while. Once the glue is fully dry, I style the mane with water and use an elastic to secure it in place. You can also use plastic wrap. While the mane is drying, I finish the tail by adding more yarn. The tail is a tiny bit too long, so I just trim the excess off. Now I just have to wait. If you make your own, be sure to tag me on Instagram. I can't wait to see all of your creations. Let me know in the comments if there's any tutorials you'd be interested in. I already have a few ideas, but suggestions are super welcome. And thanks for watching. This was my first video tutorial and I was very nervous. I hope it doesn't show too much. See you next video. Bye!